Hello, friends. Welcome to another episode of The Bible Yogi. I am your host, Douglas Roberts, and today we have a very special story we'll be going over. One of my favorite childhood stories, actually. This is the story of Noah's Ark, or Noah and the Ark. And thanks to Bing's image generator, which gave me this wonderful little cartoon of Noah's Ark. You have the rainbow and the animals 2x2 in the ark, ready to go, ready to weather the storm. It even has the rain falling. So let's begin. This story is from Genesis chapters 6, 7, and I think 8 also, for that matter. But let's begin. And God saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. And it repented the Lord they had made man on the earth, and it grieved him at his heart. And the Lord said, I will destroy man whom I have created from the face of the earth, both man and beast, and the creeping things, and the fowls of the air, for it repenteth me that I have made them. If you recall, it's been a disaster from the start. First, Adam and Eve, ate the apple, and they learned the knowledge of good and evil. The very next generation, Cain murders his own brother. A few generations later, Lamech murders somebody else. And anyway, things are going downhill. And so God has a change of heart that he ever made mankind in the first place. But Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord. And God said unto Noah, the end of all flesh is come before me, and the earth is filled with violence through them. And behold, I will destroy them with the earth. Make thee an ark of gopher wood. Room shalt thou make in the ark, and shall pitch it within and without with pitch. It's interesting to note that the word gopher here probably is not referring to woodchucks. That word doesn't appear in any other scripture anywhere in the Bible, and scholars are not in agreement as to what that word really means. It can mean a variety of things. The three main things they believe it might be is: one, an outdated word for cedar; two, it's a type of tree that is now extinct but was around way back in Noah's time; and three, it's a word that's closely related to chopped in a square. And so they believe that it's possible this is just referring to the shape of the wood planks made, that the ends were square. We don't know. The point is that he made an ark out of this stuff. And then with and without pitch basically means that the inside and the outside was covered with black tar. This would make this ark extremely waterproof, and it will need to be. A window shalt thou make to the ark, and in a cubit shalt thou finish above it. And the door of the ark shalt thou set in the side thereof, with lower, second, and third stories shalt thou make it. So lots of room for lots of animals, and keep them all separate. You don't want to necessarily have the rabbits and the lions in the same room. So you got to keep them, big cats over here, little critters over here, that kind of thing. And behold, I, even I, do bring a flood of waters upon the earth to destroy all flesh, wherein is the breath of life from under heaven, and everything that is in the earth shall die. But with thee will I establish my covenant, and thou shalt come into the ark, thou and thy sons and thy wife and thy sons' wives with thee. The plan is that they'll survive the flood. And of every living thing of all flesh, 2 of every sort shalt thou bring into the ark, to keep them alive with thee. They shall be male and female. Of fowls after their kind, and of cattle after their kind, and of every creeping thing of the earth after his kind, 2 of every sort shall come unto thee, to keep them alive. So it seems like God is actually kind of helping along with the migration of these animals. And take thou into thee of all food that is eaten, and thou shalt gather it to thee, and it shall be food for thee and for them. Amazingly, a lot of animals can eat hay and stuff like that. And then there was if you remember, Cecil B. DeMille loved to do movies about Bible stories, and he actually did do a movie about Noah and the Ark. And for the lions and tigers and stuff, he said, they can drink milk. Cats like milk, and we have lots of cows, so that's what he said. So the the tigers didn't have to eat all his antelope, Thus did Noah, according to all that God commanded him, so did he. And the Lord said unto Noah, Come thou and all thy house into the ark, for thee have I seen righteous before me in this generation. This is key. Of every clean beast thou shalt take to thee by sevens, the male and his female, and of beasts that are not clean by two, the male and his female. When God refers to clean beasts, this is from the book of Leviticus, which hasn't even been written yet, but apparently Noah knew all about clean animals. Whatsoever parteth the hoof and is cloven-footed and cheweth the cud among the beasts, that shall ye eat. This includes things like cattle and antelope, deer, sheep, goats, those kinds of animals. Fowls also by the air by sevens, the male and the female, to keep seed alive upon the face of all the earth. One might wonder why clean animals by sevens. I suspect it's because if Noah got really hungry, you could eat one or two of them and it would be okay because you got 6 more. You know what I mean? And for yet 7 days, and I will cause it to rain upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights, and every living substance that I have made will I destroy from off the face of the earth. And Noah was 600 years old when the flood of the waters was upon the earth. In the selfsame day entered Noah and Shem and Ham and Japheth, the sons of Noah, and Noah's wife and the 3 wives of his sons with him into the ark. They and every beast after his kind, and all the cattle after their kind, and every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth after his kind, and every fowl after his kind, every bird of every sort. And they that went in male and female of all flesh, as God had commanded him, and the Lord shut them in. This obviously because you only need 1 male and 1 female for reproduction. So, with only 2 of each animal of all kind, we can replenish the entire earth. That's the thinking. And it came to pass after 7 days that the waters of the flood were upon the earth. The same day were all the fountains of the great deep broken up, and the windows of heaven were opened. And the flood was 40 days upon the earth, and the waters increased and bore up the ark, and it was lift up from the earth, and the waters prevailed exceedingly upon the earth. And all flesh died that moved upon the earth, both of fowl and of cattle and of beast, and of every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth, and every man. And Noah only remained alive, and they that were with him in the ark. And the waters prevailed upon the earth 150 days. And God remembered Noah, and every living thing, and all the cattle that was with him in the ark. And God made a wind to pass over the earth, and the waters assuaged. The fountains also of the deep and the windows of heaven were stopped, and the rain from heaven was restrained. And the ark rested in the 7th month, on the 17th day of the month, upon the mountains of Ararat. Noah then opened the window of the ark which he had made, and sent forth a raven, which went forth to and fro until the waters were dried up from off the earth. So the raven never returned. Also he sent forth a dove from him to see if the waters were abated from off the face of the ground. But the dove found no rest for the sole of her foot, and she returned unto him into the ark, for the waters were on the face of the whole earth. And then he put forth his hand and took her and pulled her into the ark. And he stayed yet another 7 days, and again he sent forth the dove out of the ark, and the dove came into him in the evening. And lo, in her mouth was an olive leaf plucked off, so Noah knew that the waters were abated from off the earth. This is where that expression, the dove of peace and the olive branch, actually come from. It's from this story. And famously, the dove of peace was used in the Woodstock Festival posters in 1969. I'm sure you're all familiar with that one of the most successful concerts of the hippie generation, where we had The Who and Jimi Hendrix and the guy who sang Joe Cocker, Mad Dogs and Englishmen, Crosby, Stills and Nash. They all sung at this, and it was a huge hit. 3 days of music, peace and music, and among other things. And in the 2nd month, on the 7th and 20th day of the month, was the earth dried. And God spoke unto Noah, saying, Go forth of the ark, thou, and thy wife, and thy sons' wives with thee. Now remember, here's Noah, passing out all these birds out of the ark to see if the water's abated. And sure enough, the water's abated, but he's stuck in that ark. Because if you recall, when him and his family and all the animals get in, God had to seal the ark from the outside. So in order to make it super waterproof, maybe Noah did the inside, but the outside's still stuck. So it's like, how in the world is Noah ever going to get that door open? Well, finally God let him out. Bring forth with thee every living thing that is with thee, and they may breed abundantly in the earth, and be fruitful and multiply. That's a nice expression. You may have heard that one too. Be fruitful and multiply, from this story. And Noah built an altar unto the Lord, and took of every clean beast and every clean fowl, and offered burnt offerings on the altars. So there you go. There's a reason for that. We had to have 7 of the clean animals, because we had sacrifice unto the Lord. Once we got through this ordeal, we certainly wanted to give thanks, because I don't know about you, but spending nearly 200 days in an ark with a bunch of animals, while the whole earth gets destroyed, that might be stress-inducing. And the Lord smelled a sweet savor, and the Lord said in his heart, I will not again curse the ground any more for man's sake, for the imagination of man's heart is evil from his youth, neither will I again smite any more every living thing as I have done. While the earth remains, seed time and harvest, and cold and heat, and summer and winter, and day and night shall not cease. That's a nice promise to have. And I will establish my covenant with you. Neither shall all flesh be cut off any more by the waters of a flood. Neither shall there be any more be a flood to destroy the earth. Very comforting words. If you're ever in the middle of a hurricane, you know that the earth won't be utterly destroyed. And you can rest assured that there will always be some high ground you can escape to. And God said, This is the token of the covenant which I make between me and you and every living creature that is with you for perpetual generations. I do set my bow in the cloud, the rainbow. Here's where it was invented or inaugurated. Maybe God had it up his sleeve, for just such an occasion as this, to make a nice promise. I really wish that the Bible would talk about where we got the northern lights from, but alas, we do know where we got the rainbow. And it shall come to pass, when I bring a cloud over the earth, that the bow shall be seen in the cloud, and I will remember my covenant, which is between me and you and every living creature of all flesh, and the water shall no more become a flood to destroy all flesh. And so I have a little picture of a rainbow, just so we can be reminded of how pretty they really are. I thought this was one of the better ones. Of course, you can Google rainbow, and it comes up with all kinds of good things. It's important to remember that the rainbow has 7 colors: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. Indigo is the dark purple that we see right along this edge here. And then the violet is actually a really, really thin line of magenta. It's very close to the color I've done on my little chart here. And you can barely see it on this picture, like at all. And in real life, sometimes it's hard to see. But look for it. That 7th color is indeed there. And that is the story of Noah. So we have all kinds of iconic things happening. First, the 2x2 animals into the ark. It was in the One Piece, episodes from Japan, if you're familiar with that anime. They have a big, huge boat called Noah. I thought that was kind of interesting. But let's tell some of the other interesting stories that are kind of buried in these stories, in these chapters about Noah and the ark. And the sons of Noah that went forth of the ark were Shem and Ham and Japheth. And Ham is the father of Canaan. And Noah began to be a husbandman, and he planted a vineyard. And he drank of the wine and was drunken, and he was uncovered within his tent. And Ham, the father of Canaan, saw the nakedness of his father and told his 2 brothers without. They didn't know, but Ham went and told them. And Shem and Japheth took a garment and laid it upon their shoulders and went in backwards and covered the nakedness of their father, and their faces were backward, and they saw not their father's nakedness. And Noah awoke from his wine and knew what his younger son had done to him. And he said, Cursed be Canaan, a servant of servants shall he be unto his brethren. Interesting story. Now, who is Canaan? Well, if we look at maps of ancient Israel and we look at Canaan, Canaan is what we commonly call today the Gaza area. And it's interesting that Noah would have cursed that people, that they will be servants unto his brethren. Just interesting. But also interesting here is why this story even made it into the Bible. The point, I think, or at least the more human point, is that Noah, he was said to be righteous, right? And here he is getting drunk and naked. It's a little bit, sketchy. And rather than Ham seeing this and just going, oh, geez, and, putting a covering on him, throwing a blanket over him, and then not telling anybody, he went out and clearly made a big deal of it and probably told all kinds of nasty jokes about his dad until his brothers were like, oh, geez, we'll go help out. So I think the moral of the story is, if someone does something really bad, kind of like this, it's what do you want to say, the victimless crime, so to speak, victimless sin, you maybe just want to cover it up and keep it to yourself. Otherwise, you might get your son cursed, Now, a couple other interesting things that are in these chapters that just a few verses, but people really can get hung up on these things, so I'm bringing them up. And it came to pass when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men that they were fair, and they took them wives of all that they chose. Skipping verse 3 for just a second. There were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came into the daughters of men, and they bare children to them, they same became mighty men which are of old, men of renown. And finally, in 1 Samuel, we have the story of David and Goliath, and we see the description of Goliath as, and there went out a champion out of the camp of the Philistines, named Goliath, whose height was 6 cubits and a span. And of course, a cubit is the length of your elbow or your elbow to the end of your fingers, which is about 18 inches, and the span is half of that. So Goliath was 9 feet 9 inches tall. Pretty insane. People tend to not want to believe it, but here's a picture of Robert Wadlow. He was the tallest human being ever, and he was 8 feet 11 inches tall. He was born around the turn of the century. And the poor guy just lived to be 22 years old. And I believe they said that his height was due to a pituitary gland pressure problem. But I just show that because, it means that someone who's 9'9" isn't totally out of the realm of possibility if we had some guy living this century who was 8 feet 11. And there's one more scripture here that I find very interesting, and that's chapter 6, verse 3. And the Lord said, My spirit shall not always strive with man, for that he is also his flesh. Yet his days shall be 120 years. So here, God limits the lifetime span of humans to be 120 years. Now, we just got done saying that Noah lived to be over 600 years old. But if you recall, that's a far cry from Methuselah living to be 969 years old. So the trajectory of man's age is linearly decreasing. And it makes sense, but we'll get to that maybe later. But it makes sense because, later is now, because in the beginning, had man not lived that long, then the skills required just to survive would have been lost. And they needed to replenish the earth. They needed to be alive for some time. But then God saw that, okay, 120 years is going to do it. That's all you get to basically, as my wife once said, to prove yourself worthy of God's love. And I find it very interesting that today in our society, the Guinness Book of World Records has the oldest person at being like 115. People just simply never reach that 120-year threshold. Another thing I wanted to point out was that there were giants in the earth in those days, so they say. And the reason why I say that people get hung up on it is because, for example, in the Dead Sea Scrolls, some of the books of the Bible that were actually rejected were books about giants. And so I take it they just didn't reach the thresholds that we, have, or for the standards that make a book biblical canon. And so I guess the giants books just kind of read like fan fiction, if you will. And so that's what I got. Till next time, everybody, y'all have a good week, and hopefully I'll get out a video faster next time.